Yeah, I think that the SCA as well as a lot of us in the specialty coffee industry, we should be looking at and facing the fact that our industry is not a value proposition to anyone anymore.
No, I
You know,
couldn't
if
agree with
if
you more.
if the C market goes up a little more, how many of you roasters are going to continue roasting and like and continue fighting? Things get hard. It's already hard. It's going to get harder, harder, harder. And how many producers are going to keep doing specialty? And I don't see a serious conversation at the SCA shows.
This episode is proudly brought to you by Mapper Forward's workshop. It's time to become a coffee consultant. Learn how to diversify your revenue streams and create freedom from your day job while saying goodbye to that alarm clock forever by becoming a consultant within the coffee industry or directly to consumers who have shifted towards home brewing and home roasting. Protect your income from challenging times in the coffee value chain by taking this course today. Go to mapperforward.coffee/workshops or click the link in the show notes for details. Welcome to the Daily Coffee Pro by Map It Forward, friends. I'm your host, Lee Safar, and this is episode 2 of a 5-part series with Felipe Croce about the current situation of the coffee crisis from the perspective of the coffee producer. Now, Felipe, we're going to talk about how to game out the scenarios that we're facing in coffee, and we're going to start that with kind of the fundamentals of it all. Over to you, sir.
All right. Welcome back, everyone. What I'm saying is, I think that we need to, as a specialty coffee industry, relook at buying coffee and what that means and being a green coffee buyer. So I would say from 2014, 2019, so much of the decisions, and I'm seeing roasters change, but still so much of the decision is on a cupping table.
Mm.
And there's so much more to buying coffee in the decisions you make in business than a cupping table.
Mm-hmm.
And I think our industry is young and everything, but I grew up in being trained in SCA ways of green grading and stuff like that. But on so many levels, we need to relook at that. So I think that on a fundamentals level, I don't expect everyone to become economists, but you more or less have to look up outside the cup and see what is going on in the world. So you have to look at supply. You have to look at the major countries, Brazil, Vietnam, Ethiopia, Colombia, Indonesia, and what reports are looking like. And coffee is complicated because you get massively different reports, right? The data usually in-country data tends to be more conservative towards lower production. And then the traders' data, and USDA especially and stuff like that tends to be very optimistic. So, there's market forces to that, right? Buyers want lower prices and producers in the country want higher prices. So you got to learn to read in between the lines and have connections and talk to a lot of people. And also just understand as well financial markets. How is the Fed and the dollar, euro, yen affecting your interest, your exchange rate? When is the right time to buy and to hedge? And what are things that we can hedge your currency, or what are things that we can do outside, because we're losing a lot of. I mean, in the past 2 months, the Brazilian real to the US dollar was at below 5. $1 was 4.9 something reais. Then in June, it went to $1 was 5.7. Now it's down to 5.3. That is a massive, massive change.
Help people understand, if you don't mind, help people understand in real life terms what that means for a coffee producer.
Sure. If I'm selling a container on a US dollar per pound basis, and I'm selling, let's say, a container, I'm selling for $100,000. That's the difference of me making 490,000 reais to 570,000 reais.
That's
That is
massive.
a huge,
Massive.
massive difference. And that's in 1 month. So if I just let it float, if I don't understand my terms, if I don't, and if roasters don't pay me on time, how do I hedge? Um, there's way, 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 way too much skewed on a cupping table and blueberries, and this coffee tastes like purple, as opposed,
Sorry.
you know what I mean? That kind of attitude. Um, as opposed to all of this is a business, guys. This is a business,
Yeah.
and you pay 2 days late really screws me over. Um, you know, so the Fed, just like very quickly, like people thought the Fed was going to where they were going to start lowering interest rates. All of a sudden, Jerome Powell says they're not going to anymore have so many cuts, and then all of a sudden the dollar gains value, and then all of a sudden the Brazilian president says some crazy stuff like he doesn't care about the Brazilian central bank, and then the real devalues, and that is like 2014, 2019. That stuff didn't happen. That has been happening every year since 2020 to us. Like daily changes of more than 10% on the C market or on the exchange rate. And you need to understand that. You need to understand how that affects your business partner. I hedged for my Japanese client, the yen. They didn't know how to do that. I hedged for them. I gave them terms that they would pay me later, and I hedged the yen at $1, 148. And then when they went to pay me, it was $1, 160. So that coffee would have been so much more expensive for them if I had hedged for them. So
help people understand what hedging is. We've talked about it a bit in this series so far, but let's explain it for people.
Yeah, so I'm not going to pretend to be an expert. I've been studying a lot to understand the fundamentals, but you can hedge is basically you fix a price with a broker like FC Stone or something, either the exchange rate or the commodity or a different commodity, because you give up the right to volatility to a speculator who wants to bet, and you can forfeit that sort of potential gain in turn for not having a potential loss. Now there's a brokerage fee. Now there's all things like margin calls as well. So I hedged some of my US dollar Brazil real at 540, which historically that looked like a very good call for like the next few months. And then all of the economists, like I read 20 different economists, they were all expecting the real dollar to be around 5 to 510. Lula, our president, said crazy stuff, and all of a sudden it goes to 570, and I have to put in a couple $100,000 of margin call right away. So we need to understand what that does to our business, and how do we organize all those things, and how do we hedge for farmers as well, when the C market goes to 250 and then it drops to 220. How do we lock in for them at 250? There are times when this may not be interesting, when the C market is so low or the exchange rates are so stable. These things can be quite expensive. It's like buying insurance.
Yeah.
But there are times, Lee, when we're looking at the world we're looking at, and we're like, I'm willing to pay for insurance so that I can sleep at night, and so I can price my products over the course of the next year. And maybe I program a small raise in my prices now, because I know what I'm going to do over the next year. And then how do I explain that 3-5% raise now, as opposed to, because not hedging either exchange rates or coffee, and again, you can hedge coffee in several different ways, right? You can hedge on the C market, but you can fix it with a producer, with an exporting partner, with a producer. You can fix contracts directly with producers, and we both eliminate risk in that sense. But if you want to choose from an array of samples, because a coffee CEO or CFO might have interest in reducing risk and say, let's buy from one farmer and let's make a contract. And that's very simple. Like, let's agree on a product. And then, but you have a quality person who says, this is 84.75 and I want an 85. And so that's rejected. So these two areas, they need to get along better. The finance and the green bean team. And then specialty coffee needs to get off a bit of the high horse and understand that producers have a whole array of products to sell. We cannot just sell our top end coffees. That is like when you have coffee at origin, it's like, imagine if you were to buy a one bowl, right? You're gonna make a barbecue, and you go to a farmer and you buy one cattle, one bull, and you're gonna come out with a price for that cattle, and there's gonna be all these different cuts. If you go to the supermarket, you have the cuts priced separately. Filet mignon is cut and sirloin are priced differently than ground beef was priced differently than brisket and bone marrow and all that stuff. That makes total sense. Specialty coffee has been, up until recently, almost like an arrogant kid who says, I only eat filet mignon.
Wow.
I only touch that stuff. I don't eat a burger. I don't like brisket. I don't have any soups with bone marrow. I don't do any of that stuff.
We don't do flavored meat. We don't put salt and pepper on our meat.
No, I don't eat pho. I don't eat any of that stuff. Ramen, none of that stuff. Well, guess what? That's not how the world works.
Yeah.
Okay. Chefs will tell you there is no such thing as waste. Waste ruins restaurants. Okay. Then it ruins farms. So you can't come over here and say, and tout around and say, we pay above sea market value. Hold on a minute. What are you paying sea market value for? For filet mignon? You're comparing the price of filet mignon with the price of the cow? That makes no sense. At all. And SCA is telling everyone on Q grading courses that if you have one Quaker, then that's not specialty coffee. Well, hold up. And then specialty coffee, I would say was heavily in a context of high-end coffee shop, very dedicated baristas. Now specialty coffee is in hotels, offices, convenience stores, all these other places where they're going up against coffee companies that are doing 300 defects, 600 defects, grinders with Robusta roasted in 3 minutes and all that kind of stuff. So you need to understand the context. And then the other thing that I often think is they don't understand the management style and the values behind that. So if you were to buy a piece of meat, you buy a cattle, and you went to farmer A and he has grass-fed, hormone-free, this breed or that breed or that breed, and he's very meticulous about his how all that stuff influences his beef and the quality of it. And then you went to the other farmer and it's just sort of fit in this sort of cow hotel where you just feed them GMO corn and you just fatten them up and sell them really quick, and it's like not the best breed. But you go to the supermarket and you just look at price of filet mignon A and price of filet mignon B. That is what we're doing. Okay?
There's so much nuance in it, right? That we're ignoring.
Yeah. And so when I'm doing second and third grade stuff, people are like, well, you're starting to do like grinders and stuff. Like, no, I'm not. I mean, like this is still specialty coffee cupping 83 plus, but we can use, it's like bruised fruit. There's a place for that. The second, so especially, and so I've been working with roasters quietly on that. And that's been a really fast growing area where I've helped roasters open customers that we never believed we could open. And guess what? It's the values that's convincing these people, because those people who are making the decisions in those companies, they don't understand cupping. They don't understand that. They understand the values that we're talking about and the data that we're giving them and the experiences that we're giving them. So I think that an impact department all of a sudden is just as important as a quality department. And I think that like we need to deal with the CFO challenges and the CEO challenges and the board, which if we don't have these management visions in our companies, the information that goes down to the quality team is we need an 85-point coffee for this blend. Okay, so you get 10 samples and 4 of them pass the 85 category, and we choose the cheapest one.
Well,
but we're not talking about, you know, the how that was produced. We're not at, we could add
where's
another
the story?
Well, we could add another element of requirement for and value for that customer as well, because the final customer today, I mean, we're not really giving them anything. We're not giving them any values,
No.
any philosophical, any world values, any nutritional value. Inadvertently, some people are, because, you know, we're choosing good farmers, but we're not having that discourse with the final consumer.
And the consumer wants it today. The consumer wants for us as roasters and cafes and businesses to be able to help them know that they have made a conscious purchase. They have participated in buying a product that hasn't done any damage to the planet or hasn't contributed to a war somewhere or any of these kinds of things. It's an important part of the story for the consumer now. I have a question for you. With the way that all the droughts are going and with the challenges that producers are being faced with, well, let me say it this way. Is perhaps having these kinds of directives of we only buy 85s or, you know, we have to have coffee that tastes like purple, is that going to be a luxury into the future, do you think, if things keep going where they are? Like, I'm not sure that people are actually going to have, I don't know if there's going to be enough coffee available for everybody who wants to think that way. Or am I seeing this the wrong way?
Well, again, I think that we always have to look at these things with a bit of humility, right? And be humble. The markets teach us lessons. I am not an expert, but the way I'm looking at things from Brazil, and from what I've talked to people and looked around the world. So if we go recap just really quickly this past year, we had a flowering, we had a really big drought, September, October, November, half of December, and extremely high temperatures. I'm talking 15 days in a row of 40 degrees C. And so what happens is just after the flowering, we expect that there's less water, right? Less rain, but also more evapotranspiration. So the cells multiplied less. So we expected already in October, we already started expecting this, smaller beans. Then we had good rain, December, January, February, March. And so basically we're like, okay, the plant's not going to recover it, all of it lost in terms of growth for 2025, but hopefully we can fill these beans and we have smaller, but like high density beans and good tasting beans. 2024 has already been much hotter than 2023, which was the hottest. The past few months, we've had 4 degrees C above the historical average.
Wild.
And so what we have not seen, Lee, before, we've never seen this before. So like, you know, like coffee scientists and everything, I talk to a lot of them, I listen all the time, and they're always trying to compare, especially the older guys, right? This reminds me of 2006. This reminds me of 1984. This reminds me of, and they're all saying,
this reminds me of nothing.
This is the year that I've never seen in my life.
Wow.
So there's no comparison to what we're living through now. So the one thing that we've realized in the past month that we weren't looking at is temperature. I mean, we're looking at water because water is what moves the nutrients in the bean, but temperature is really what fills the beans, because the plant needs to do photosynthesis to fix carbon. Carbon density is carbon, right? And what happens is at 24 degrees C, let's say that coffee is at 100% efficiency, photosynthesis and all. Every temperature up or down, you lose 10%. So let's say around 34%, the plant stops. Okay.
Right.
So in May and June, which is end of fall and beginning of winter, which is supposed to be really cold in Brazil, it hit 34 degrees every single day by noon.
Wow.
Every single day in the coffee growing regions. So what we're seeing, and I'm looking, my regions are not as bad because we're a bit colder. We're doing more regenerative farming. We're doing all kinds of things. Rains a little more, but we're hearing from people from Cerrado, Alta Mogiana, we call Sujimina Quente, the hot Sujiminas, Bahia. I mean, these guys are irrigating every single day.
Wow.
And still they're getting 20% break. But again, producers tend to be sometimes dramatic on their reports. So we're trying to analyze what's going on, but the coffee's not weighing as much. So it takes, we were seeing a lot of coffees on the cherries on tree, but now it's like, where's that coffee? Because the numbers are just not there. So I don't know if that's already been factored into the C market, because we always, generally speaking, the Brazilian harvest comes in, there's a lot of flood of product, and the C market down. The inverse has happened. Now, I don't know if that's already been factored in or if that's going to be factored in still. But what we're seeing, and I'm not trying to make a prediction of the Brazilian harvest in terms of bags, but it's safe to say from our perspective that it's not going to reach the estimates of what the harvest was supposed to be this year. How much worse? I don't know. Probably closer to 2023 levels. But we've seen that temperature is a huge problem, and I showed you a newspaper article. I just framed it next to an article my dad framed in 2000.
Wow.
That was saying areas in Brazil that would not be able to plant coffee. And we're already, what they estimated in the year 2000, we're already at the year 2050. So, I think that we've seen a lot of great increases in quality and productivity with a lot of regenerative farming techniques, and we can fix things. But I think we're facing a lot of struggles. We're facing a lot of challenges, and it's making reach that quality really hard. So it is a possibility that coffee as a whole, at least in maybe at a certain point until we fix things, the quality could reduce a little bit. But I think that we need to work on bigger, higher level problems than sometimes looking at it just through a lens of cupping.
Well,
there's a lot more.
And this is my real problem with the SCA's direction of marketing this coffee value assessment form. No disrespect to the SCA and the people that work there and what they're doing, but I'm not quite sure that that's the thing that we need to be focusing on as an industry right now to solve a crisis. I'm not sure that many coffee producers give many fucks about a coffee value assessment form when we've got some real decisions that need to be made about how we're pricing coffee and how we're going to keep not only producers producing coffee and how we're going to battle these kinds of things, but also what if we don't have any roasters or cafes that are surviving to buy this product? That means we get mass consolidation. When we have mass consolidation, it's now no longer even hope of the producers being able to set the prices. Mass consolidation means you've got big businesses that are setting the prices. You want to sell your coffee, sell us your coffee. If not, we'll wait for you to go out of business and then we'll just buy your farm and then we'll take it over and you can manage it. That's a viable scenario moving forward.
Yeah, I think that the SCA as well as a lot of us in the specialty coffee industry, we should be looking at and facing the fact that our industry is not a value proposition to anyone anymore.
No, I
You know,
couldn't
if
agree with
if,
you more.
if the C market goes up a little more, how many of you roasters are going to continue roasting and like and continue fighting? The things get hard. It's already hard. It's going to get harder, harder, harder. And how many producers are going to keep doing specialty? And I don't see a serious conversation at the SCA shows.
No,
I don't see that discourse happening. I don't see value proposition to the final consumer happening. So I think that we need a space for conversation. I think yeah, we're just like we're on autopilot, and we're taking low hanging fruit, and the there's not that much interesting conversation. The shows are getting really big. There's a lot of new booths of just equipment and all kinds of stuff. And there's less and less producers. There's less and less conversation between the whole supply chain. So that worries me. That worries me a lot. So I think that we need to go back to the drawing board and come back at a sort of identity and what we are,
I
essentially.
agree. And then that's why I say we have such a wonderful and beautiful opportunity right now. I'm one of these people who, like, when something goes wrong in my life, when I'm feeling really down and I'm feeling defeated, that is the moment to really examine the whole scenario of what I'm in, heal everything
Yeah.
that I need to heal, and I really milk those opportunities for everything that I can so that I don't have to repeat the same learning. And I feel like we're experiencing that on an industry level. And so in the next episode, we're going to game out some very specific 4 scenarios, and we're going to have a look at what happens at origin at these very specific 4 scenarios. So join us in the next episode, folks, for what is a fantastic conversation. This is everything I wanted it to be, Felipe. Peace, love, and peanut butter. Have an amazing rest of your day. I really hope you enjoyed this episode, friends. Please don't forget to show us some love by subscribing, liking, commenting, and most of all, sharing this podcast with your friends. Check the show notes for links, including our sponsors and our Patreon, and stay tuned for more great conversations on the Daily Coffee Pro by Mapper Forward.